Hello again, everyone. A little bit different edition of Spinistry Chat today. I get asked all the time, how do I come up with the routes, or what tools do I use to find routes, and what tips can I help people with to find routes? And hey, today we're going to do a video that shows you, my basic layout of how to find a route, what I use, the tools I use to begin with, the process, how we verify things, and going forward from there. And to top it off, this is for a real event route that we'll be doing in a few weeks, the Hillsboro Hustle out of Hillsboro, Texas. I'll try to edit things down and make it as concise as possible. So first off, my primary tool is ridewithgps.com, and I do have the subscription service with access to the tools and things like that. Don't ask me which of these pieces that I'm talking about are included in the free versus the paid. I honestly don't know. I use them all as I need them. And I'm not saying that people need to run out and subscribe to Ride with GPS. If it's a good fit for you, fantastic. If it's not, that's fine too. Ride with GPS does have some handy tools for those starting from scratch and have no idea where to potentially lay down a gravel route. First off, the first qualifier, well, gee, Kevin, how do you know where to find gravel roads? At this point, for me, it's mostly kind of experience. When I've been driving from one event to another, or obviously the events we've done in the past, we know where the dirt roads are in those areas and so forth. But when I'm finding new gravel roads, typically what does it, I'm driving somewhere through a new area, and as I'm going by, I look down and, hey, that's a neat looking dirt road there. And what I'll do is mentally notate that, kind of remember where I am roughly, and the next time I'm in front of a computer, I'll break out with Ride with GPS and start looking at things and seeing if anything does look inviting. One thing everyone needs to be aware of, and we'll see it here shortly, when you look for routes in the manner that we're doing now, that works fantastic for bringing up information that might be several years old, 4, 5, 6 years old. Some areas, particularly in Texas, are growing so fast that a lot of those roads are being paved over. So that's part of step 2 of this. You have to physically verify a route to make sure. So we know we're doing an event in Hillsboro, Texas. Let's kind of zoom in on that. And for me to put together an event specifically, but generally speaking, just to do a gravel route, even for personal riding, you need somewhere where you can park your car and hopefully access to restrooms, and then along the route you want access to amenities and so forth. So finding that combination of a safe place to stage from or park your vehicle and have access to restrooms, and then along the way have access to amenities, particularly if it's not a supported event, you still need to find convenience stores and things like that along the way. Putting all those pieces together and still coming up with a route that's mostly gravel, that can be difficult. Just to give an idea, so we're starting in Hillsboro, which is easy access off I-35. Zoom out a little bit for those that don't know where Hillsboro is. So here's Dallas-Fort Worth, an hour or less north. There's Waco to the south, maybe 30 minutes from Waco. And it's actually even going straight up I-35. It's not bad for Austin folks, particularly if you're up in the North Austin end of things. And I'm using the main Google map on Ride with GPS. There are alternate maps as well. We'll talk about some of those shortly. From our own personal experience, we staged from Wallace Park because this County Road 4230 here going north out of Wallace Park, you're almost immediately on a dirt road. That's unusual. Usually, staging from an area that has enough parking and restrooms for everyone, usually you have to pedal a few miles before you start hitting dirt roads. So what we're planning to do for Hillsboro Hustle, I have not finalized the routes yet. That's what I'm doing this week. And we know that we're going to do a 75-ish mile route. I'll talk about that in a little bit, why it's ish. 55-ish mile route and a 40-ish mile route. Those are planned, and they're on the ish side because at this point I don't know the exact route that I'll be using. I have a general idea of some things I want to work with, and I'm gonna adapt it from there. And let's say that you're just wanting to create your own ride, and Wallace Park is close to a dirt road in Hillsboro, and it might be where you want to park your vehicle. Here's a neat tool that's accessible from Ride with GPS. So we're zoomed out almost none of the county roads are showing right now, but I'm wanting to zoom out to here because we've been doing events for several years out of Hillsboro. We've actually started incorporating some stuff out of Lake Whitney area here that we started picking up some of our western side of what used to be our Hillsboro routes with that event and those routes, which is fine. There's really good stuff here that goes all the way around the lake. So we also have some stuff that we've done out of Maypearl in the past that we like a lot, but there's not a really good staging area in Maypearl, or if there is, we haven't really found it yet. The Hillsboro staging works better. So what I'm thinking about doing is kind of shifting Hillsboro a little bit more east and northeast, and maybe if the pieces come together, pick up some of our better Maypearl stuff as well as some of our Hillsboro stuff. Let me show you a quick tool on how to get an idea where some gravel roads may be. I say this because I know that a large percentage of the county roads in this area are dirt and gravel already. So if you go to heat maps, global heat map, all of a sudden you see all of these red lines in here. This is ride with GPS heat map data that people have recorded rides. Now, a lot of this is going to be our different events over the years where we've utilized a lot of this network of roads. We don't typically use the same route over and over. We do change it up almost every time. This is a really good starting point. If you're trying to build your own route from scratch, you can look at this detail and say, well, from Hillsboro and from Wallace Park, obviously you can see there's a bunch of stuff coming up and out of Wallace Park going this way, to the north. And then you see there's lots of blank areas in here as well. And that might mean they're either paved roads and that it's mostly gravel people, or it could be the other way around. If it's a really heavy paved riding area, these could be the gravel roads that none of the roadies are riding on. Now, I know for certain that almost all these heat maps are from people riding gravel in the area. Most of them are people riding our events over the years. The reasons, and I know this from personal experience, that these particular, like this section isn't used as much for our events, is this section is likely to get muddy. That's a quick way to eyeball some stuff and like to verify it. Show you another thing here. So you can zoom in a little tighter, and it's telling us it's county road. And then if you go to satellite view, then you can zoom in right here, and you zoom in enough and the heat map goes away, or you can zoom out some and remove the heat map, and then you can just see the satellite imagery. So this right here, here's a perfect example. Yeah, this is a neat dirt road, but it's a field road. And I can guarantee you if somebody spits on that road, it turns into mud. Whereas this white road, it's a rock-based road. But you still have to go out and verify it, and we'll definitely be getting into that very shortly here. At a glance, this is why we're going to be concentrating kind of in this area here for building our route. We're going to have the 75-ish mile route, a 55-ish mile route, and a 40-ish mile route. What I'm basing this off of is in January, we had a Club Spinistry ride that tried out some slightly newer loops, picking up a little bit of that eastern stuff. I rode it myself, liked it a lot. Mostly happy with it. Some changes I'd like to make to it, but to pick up that Maypearl stuff, I'm thinking will take us into that 75-mile route range for total mileage. And I'll show you what we're working with here and what we're going to try to build from. So this was the 52-mile route that most of us rode during the club ride in January. This is the core that I'm going to work with, and that I'll try to build the alternate distances from, and then we'll go out, and our next video will be us actually scouting it and verifying it in person. This is all verified as of January. It doesn't mean things haven't changed since January, but this was good in January. We know that. So that's a good baseline to start from. So to get the 75-miler going, we need to kind of start making our way to the northeast a little bit. We could go straight up from here, but I'm not a big fan of that because that was a longer farm to market paved section. Not a bad road, just kind of unfun. Nothing great about it. just getting from point A to point B. I think there's a more interesting way we can do it. We've used this little section here in the past. That's a fun little road and connecting it there. And I think I can use this to connect up to that and create a more interesting format. So we're going to show you some other extremely useful tools from Ride with GPS that helps us with this. We'll go back to the heat map. Have those been used? This has never been used, or at least by anyone riding Ride with GPS. You can see where our riders have used this section in the past. Okay, so why hasn't this been used? Let's dig a little deeper, right? A couple things that could be at play here. First off, let's definitely look at the satellite imagery like we talked about before. We'll turn the heat map off because we know there's no heat map activity here. So that looks like one of those field roads. That looks like one of those field roads. But it's a fairly short stretch. We'll check the mileage here in a minute. Oh, wait a minute. We're zooming in a little bit. That's actually fairly double trackish. A lot of times when you see double track like that, it actually has a decent rock base to it. Obviously, it doesn't get used a lot. So there's some silt there. Definitely if it floods, that gets muddy. There's some more double track rock base there. So that low point and where the fields get tilled into the road can potentially be muddy. We definitely want to scout this in person. And then it comes out here by the airport, and that's a rock road there. So first impressions are, and again, this says this is County Road 4238. Sometimes the maps will be incorrect, and it could be what was a county road is no longer a county road. Maybe it's a private road. Maybe it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe there used to be a bridge that washed out, or maybe they just till it under the fields. Again, we're going to have to verify this in person to make sure. But based on the map, based on what I see in the satellite imagery, it's worth looking into at this point. I want to use a couple other pieces to try to verify. So is this really a county road? Again, from Ride with GPS, what I will do, I will go to this OSM map. This isn't 100% accurate, but it's kind of helps us know if we maybe want to tread lightly and be a little more cautious. And this still says it's a county road 4238. My experience has been that the Google Maps will still have things designated as county roads more often than OSM will. OSM will, if it is no longer a county road, or if there's a bridge out and it's only a county road to here and a county road to here and basically nothing in the middle, OSM is usually better about those smaller segments, about pointing out whether it's actually viable or not. So going off that, I would say odds have increased that it is truly a county road. Nothing's 100% until you verify it. But let's go to another tool that we can use. And another reason I like to use the Google map, so you can utilize Street View. Most of the time dirt roads aren't in Street View, but more and more are getting into Street View, but what you can verify a lot of the time. So you grab the little Street View guy and it's highlighted in blue where the Street View camera has been. And what we can do is we can put it right here at the end of this road and see what it looks like going down that road. So there's the bend to the right that goes to the airport. And there's the farm road, the field road there. And it does go off into a wooded section there, but it does a jog. So that looks pretty good from that perspective. There's no gates. There's no posted private property or anything like that. Let's see if we're able to see it from the other end as well. Yep, look at that. It goes right to there. And so there's the double track. And look there. That's a confirmation that that's a county road signage and double track. So that looks like a fun little section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this route now. So I want to put a new control point here so we make sure it goes to that. And we're going to drag this plot over to here. And so now it comes down this road, catches a little bit of the access road there. Actually, that's still county road there. It's all county road. And it catches our other neat little section on the north end. So technically speaking, there's our 55-ish mile route right there, just doing that, but not really, because like I said, I want to change some other stuff. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of this farm to market road stretch. Let's see if we can shorten that some. So that takes our mileage down a touch. And if we go up here like this, that takes it to 62. That's a bit much from the advertised distance. What this is doing for us is taking us a little more closer towards Maypearl and maybe pick up some of that. Let's see if we could play with that a little bit. And for giggles, let's see what our mileage is if we stretch this out like that. It's probably going to be too long. 79.7, that's not horrible. We said 75-ish. 79.7 is 75-ish, right? Particularly if it's really good stuff. We could hypothetically, let's play with this. We'll do our control point there and control point here. And what we're going to do, just to see what it does to the mileage, is if we don't do Witten Road all the way around, if we cut it at, so that's 74.1. So we have a 74 miler, that's in our 75-ish range, or we have a 79 miler, which is in our 75 mile range. Now, working from past experience, I really like this Witten Road and this Bell Branch Road. I like both of those a lot, but that might just be nostalgia as much as anything. I'm probably going to go ahead and map it out this way and see what this is like when I verify it. And I think there's a good climb if you do it this way, if I remember correctly. Let's look. Yeah, there's a good climb right there. So if you do it that way, that'll throw a good climb into the mix. So I'm gonna scout it that way to see what that looks like. And probably, if it lets us, I think that might be, no, it works. It works. Let's look at Google Street to make sure. I think one of these roads up here got turned into a private road, but I could be misremembering. There's a stop sign there and a county road sign. So let's go back to map. So we'll cut out a little bit there and put a control point here, move you over there. There we go. There's some good riding in here. All right, that's a pretty solid 74/79 mile route there. So what I will do, I'm going to go out tomorrow and verify this route both as the 74 and the 79 miler. I know I can make a 55 miler out of it, 55-ish. The 40 miler will figure out something. Always try to make the longer routes the premier routes. I'll have to play with it to see what the different 40-ish mile options would be. We already know we're good on the 55-ish mile. We can make it work one way or another, even if it just means making this turn here. It may be worth the bonus to make it a 60-ish mile one. Well, here's a possibility. It's worth checking out. Across here, up there, and then over to this. That's worth checking out, actually. Let's see what that does. Does that really go through? Let's look at the satellite. Oh, that's there's one of our, ooh, that's a scary looking one there. Yeah, that doesn't go through. So no, that's not going to work as an alternate. That's how we rough out a route. From here, we verify in person, and we'll see some interesting stuff along the way. We'll see stuff along the way that doesn't work well, and we'll adapt from there. Until it's final, I put it for route managers only. Once we finalize a route, we do make them available to Club Spinistry members as well, and we'll save it. Well, there you go.